Welcome to Camp Confidential, Beyond the Bars. I'm Katrina and with my co-host Cheryl Womack, author, entrepreneur and philanthropist, we tell it like it is. In Season 1, we take you inside the walls of a women's federal prison camp. From pre-sentencing to navigating daily life behind bars, we offer practical advice, survival strategies and insights that no one tells you before you go in. No sugarcoating, no cliches. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only. Be sure to do your own research and consult a professional. Today's episode is titled It's No Michelin Star and is based off the book How to Go to Camp, Surviving in a Women's Federal Prison by the Cheryl Womack, available now on Amazon. Now, Cheryl, let's discuss the prison cafeteria, starting with what times of the day are meals served?
There are 3 meals a day. The first meal is you start at, I think, 6:30, and by 7:30, 8 at the latest, breakfast is closed. Sometimes it's a honey bun. Sometimes it's juice and not fresh fruit, but juice and fruit and cereal. It's just bran flakes or something like that. There's usually 2% milk or whole milk. The juices are in little milk pouches and stuff to get. So that's breakfast. Then the first lunch starts at about 10:30. And is usually done a little bit after 11. You have 2 dorms that are coming in when you have your meals. So we'll go on to dinner. They have an early dinner at 3 o'clock before 4 o'clock count. I'm not sure why that is, but if they have leftovers from lunch or extra quantities of something, those might be served with whatever the meal of the day is. Menus are pretty set in prisons, where Fridays are fish days, Wednesdays are chicken sandwich days, Tuesday or Mondays might be fried chicken day, where you get a piece of baked fried chicken because nothing gets fried, it's baked. So they have set meals, or something with noodles and an unidentifiable meat comes up at least once a week. So dinner, you have the 3 o'clock one, you go in for count. As soon as count is over, somewhere around 4:30, one of the dorms starts going in. And then once they're done, the other dorm goes in. And then vice versa, that dorm that's finished goes to the visiting room to get their mail. So each dorm has about 15 minutes to eat each of their meals. And then the other dorm comes in.
So just tell me, do you think that the meals are enough, or would you go away from the cafeteria still feeling hungry?
Well, I think they don't give you enough. And often when they say we have seconds, they come running up there like banshees to get seconds, because I think people are hungry. You do get enough, but it's not a lot. You get rationed a certain portion. Another thing, I think I need to tell you, which was alarming to me, maybe not to anybody else, but those food trays that you get when you go to a cafeteria, you pick one up. Now, who knows where this food tray's been, how many years it's been there, how well it's been cleaned or not cleaned, just dampened off and stacked back up. But you get that food tray, and that's what they plop their food down on. It's not like you pick up a thing of green beans and put them on your tray. You pick up a plate of chicken and you put it on your tray. Literally, it just gets plopped on that tray. So that was very off-putting at first for me, because it just seemed not very hygiene. But that's the way the meal is served.
So we're not saying, it's not like you're self-serving like a buffet style that you would. So you're just coming up with your tray and they are putting it on your tray and deciding what do you get to turn away a dish if you don't want something? Can you say no? Or is it just that's it, it's getting racked up on your tray?
No, you can say, I don't want that. But you can not get things, but they will give you the portion of what you do get. You won't get more.
So do you think some meals were better than others as far as quality?
Well, no, I think the quality was crap for all of it. You never had fresh food. You didn't have fresh vegetables in there. Everything's prepackaged and then warmed for the most part. So they might make soup or something. And I think if you got a soup, that was better, because you had, they used some leftover stuff, and you might have a rice and a chicken soup or something. But that, they had soup. The meals just were not that great. And so you would always that's why everybody needed commissary money, to be able to have some good, some food that they'd eat on the side later, or many of them chose just to eat outside of the cafeteria.
Do you say that maybe the lunch meals were more popular with the inmates than perhaps the dinner was? Because you mentioned that people go back for seconds from lunch. So I'm just wondering, was that because it was better?
They'll go back for seconds from dinner too if they have it. If they have seconds, they'll go back for seconds because they're hungry, and you're getting certain rations. And again, like I've shared, if you've come in and you hadn't been eating for a long time and now you've gotten used to eating, you might be eating snacks away, potato chips, popping things when you're not there. And then you're eating everything they give you, and you'll eat seconds because you're getting used to eating again. And so you're eating more.
So you didn't feel like the meals were nutritious at all?
No, they were not nutritious. I suppose people would bring in like salt and pepper from their room, or they had like a flaky spice. You're not supposed to, you can get in trouble for it, but they would bring it in to doctor up their food and put a little more flavor in it.
Do you find that any of the meals were particularly hard to eat, but you kind of didn't have a choice because that was all that was on offer?
I mean, I suppose there are people, if they had no commissary, they had no connections, maybe they just got there, they'd probably eat. I would say the first night I was there, maybe the first 2 nights, I ate whatever I got because that's all I knew I'd get. But after that, and you get some resources and make some friends, if you don't like what they have, which is often, you don't eat there. There are not a lot of girls, but some girls who would just go to the cafeteria, just to catch up with everybody else. So it just, that's they would go more for the social experience than they would to go for the food experience.
Were there vegetarian, vegan, or religious dietary requirements? How were they catered to, especially if you were gluten-free or you had a dietary requirement?
Well, I mean, they met religious requirements. For example, there was always fish on Fridays for Catholics who eat fish on Fridays, and wanted to observe that. Everybody got fish on Fridays. Might be fish sticks. It might be a piece of, fish patty, might be a salmon patty, but you got those. Again, it's frozen food that's come out and been baked. And it's just not, to me, it just wasn't that good. I can't think of any. I guess if I had to say I liked something, their version of fried chicken for the lunches were probably one of my better liked meals, that I would try to go get that one because I liked it. As you get a chicken breast and a wing or something on it. And I can't remember what the sides were, but then you get a little bit of lettuce, and which again, you're putting in this god awful tray that with your dressing that you're adding to it. So it just seemed not that sanitary. And the food really wasn't brought to you in mind with nutritional value. It was brought to you in mind with calorie count, that they're required. I mean, to give you a certain amount of protein to make available to you. You could tell them you were vegan, and they'll try to have things they would have vegan options so that it'd be limited, but they'd have vegan options.
Because I think too, these days, it's a lot more common for people to be celiac and to have, a lot more diet.
Gluten-free too, but you sort of learn what you can have or what you can't have. And I mean, I didn't even know what you'd buy on the commissary that's gluten-free. I mean, you're in prison. You are very limited in your choices.
Did you find inmates would ever trade food or find creative ways to make it better?
Again, you're not supposed to take any food, not even a piece of fruit, out of the cafeteria to your room. But it wouldn't be uncommon for girls to bring a piece of chicken or bring a piece of the meat or maybe the pasta or something and bring it back to the room and doctor it up with, again, you can get the pouches of tuna fish, or you can do rice, things like that. And you can make your own concoction out of it. And some of the girls were very good at that. And those were pretty good meals. So you could get that kind of stuff.
So did you find that the commissary was a good alternative for better food, or was it just too expensive to take advantage of?
I would never say better food. The warehouse is better, if you have the money to buy contraband where you can get fresh fruits and vegetables and things like that. Food that you'd never see in the cafeteria might become available. Cantaloupe, some things that you'd never see can come through contraband that you can get in trouble for. But the commissary food was just as much junk food as was the food that you could get in the cafeteria. So it was not easy to try to have good, well-nutritious, well-balanced meals.
We spoke earlier about the fact that there was all these side hustles with inmates that were preparing food and doing this. What would you say was the most nutritious item that you could get off another inmate as part of a side hustle?
Well, again, I think if they took a piece of the meat or the pasta and mixed it with the tuna and made it, is it more nutritious? Again, I think nutrition's being very loose. But does it taste better overall? Yes. Again, it's going to be more nutritious if you're in with a group of people, because in your group, you've probably been able to pull together some fresh vegetables, or like if you're getting a dessert, somebody's making on a side hustle, they might have gotten out a few apples that they've now, boiled with hot water and made into, an inner pie filling, where you're having mini pies or you're having tortilla filled pies, and they make delicious things. So they make lots of good food like that you could get on the side. But nutrition would be, it's hard to be on a diet in prison. The best way to be on a diet in prison is to go exercise.
So, as you said before, they're not really generating meals towards good health. So, if you came into prison already poorly, on drugs and physically not doing very well, I'm thinking, would it be fair to say that what you're going to be fed in there is not going to help your cause?
Well, it's worse than that. One of the gals that was in prison with me had shared with me that she got kept in county for a year before she got into the camp. Now, maybe something happened in between there, but I know she was in county. And in county, you get out for like an hour a day, 45 minutes a day out of your room that you're sharing with everybody else. And all your meals are sack lunches. So they're all mystery meat, a piece of fruit, and maybe a bag of chips. All 3 meals a day could be that. Or maybe there's only 2 meals a day, and all 2 meals. And this one particular girl, from being in county and eating county food, became very ill from just eating, not getting nutritious food, not getting sunlight, things like that. She really got sick. And so she did improve with her dietary requirements when she got into a camp where the nutrition is better. You can get sunlight, you can move around, but she got sick from being in county. So it can be worse. It can absolutely be worse, but it's just not good food. I mean, the worst food you get are on holidays when they shut the camp down at night because people want to go home, who are the COs. And when you're leaving from your lunch that day at 11:15 for the day, then you're going away, or maybe 11 o'clock for the day. You're going away with a sack lunch that you'll keep for the rest of the day for whenever you want to eat dinner.
So tell me, I mean, because you did Christmas in prison that first year. So what was your Christmas Day lunch and dinner like? What was that?
They actually had, I think they had duck,
Duck.
maybe, or they might have
That's
had duck, or they might have had, they said at some prisons they'll get like a good steak. I mean, I've heard stories that some prisons actually have good food. It's still frozen, but I just think it probably depends upon probably the people who are running the cafeteria. And I don't mean the CO, because the CO's there to hire people and manage the food going in. He's not really there for, I guess he could be there for the quality of the food, but it's really up to the head chef. And I think that, again, the people who worked in the cafeteria had some pretty darn good meals, but that didn't happen for most of the rest of us.
So they were given a budget on how to run that kitchen. Is that how, like you would a normal restaurant? Is that what the head chef was doing?
I'm sure they were. And again, the better food was reserved for the group of people who worked in the kitchen and behind the kitchen and in the warehouse and stuff. And they all ate separately from us. And then the rest of us came in to eat. But they also had, you might get a turkey leg. We'd have sweet potato pie. We would have stuffing. I mean, the holiday meals were not bad. They get excited because you get hot dogs on a grill, maybe on the 4th of July. And they would have ice cream. They'd bring out things of ice cream, and they'd get really excited when they had ice cream at the prison, really excited. So they'd bring out these giant things of it and scoop it out, and everybody would get, their thing of ice cream. And then you bring out your little plastic cup and get your ice cream.
So do you think things like that actually help to improve the morale in prison when, like you're saying, the women were excited to get certain things like the ice cream? And
I think anytime you got something in the way of food, another thing they did for holidays is they put more special treats. Like instead of a regular Hershey bar, you might get a big Hershey bar that's giant size that's available to buy for the Christmas holidays. So, or, or we got really excited when they had a Dove lotion in a pack that came in, where you could get a pack for body wash and a pack for facial wash. And those kinds of things weren't normally available. So over the holidays, they might be available. You didn't really get better food. You just got maybe more unique things for a little while.
so were you able to take supplements or vitamins, or was that completely up to if you could afford to buy that through commissary to help supplement your diet in that way?
Well, you absolutely had to be able to afford it. Matter of fact, I bought B12 vitamins and took them to my class and made everybody take them to wake up in class at first, just to make them get with it and wake up in class and pay attention in the morning. I took them myself when I had the morning class. But I think they have a general vitamin where you can get a generic general vitamin, and then they had vitamin B12. I'm thinking that's probably about all they had. There weren't really a lot of supplements. You didn't get supplements. You didn't get aspirin. All that kind of stuff had to come from medical.
Either medical or I'm assuming, so you could buy through commissary if you could afford to.
Yes. Yes. And it's not uncommon. Those are where some of the girls, where it's like, don't pet the puppies. Those girls always show up to see if you've got something that they can get. Do you have, an extra apple? Do you have an extra, bag of potato chips? Do you have an extra honey bun? And they don't have the money. It's partly why they're asking for it. Or some of them, have been in for a while. They've got an appetite they're not used to having, and they're hungry. So they're going around looking for what they can get.
So weight gain is certainly not uncommon from the sounds of it in prison. Did you find that you personally gained weight while you were in prison, or were you able to maintain?
I actually lost a little bit of weight because I walked on the track a lot, a lot. That was where my safety place was. And I just couldn't get really inspired about the food. And, I wasn't without food before I went in. So it's not like food was a new adventure for me to start having food and being hungry. Now, I'm not going to say I wasn't hungry sometimes, but you just sort of got used to it. But I would walk the track quite a bit. Like a lot of us would set goals to say, let's try to walk, a mile in the morning. And some of us would try to do 5 miles a day, which I didn't do a lot, but I would try to get 3 miles in every day or every other day. And so that helped me not gain weight from the kinds of high carb foods that were available to you.
So you think the COs ever used food as some type of form of punishment or incentive for inmates?
The only time I saw it really used as an incentive would be like when we had to, if they call for volunteers, which you were strictly a volunteer to go in and make, the men were in lockdown and they're going to be in there for a while, then they would call for volunteers to come in and make hundreds and hundreds of sack lunches that you put together. I mean, you had to have, if you had 1,100 prisoners in the men's prison, then you had to make 1,100 times 3. And then they just stacked them all on these things, and then they smashed them down so they could get as many as they wanted and wrapped them up, to take over to the men's. And so we would go do that. And the men were locked down for 3 or 4 weeks at one point in time. And a whole bunch of us went in and did that. And, we got offered a can of orange pop when we were done, which I declined. A can of orange pop. It's like, there's not much they can give you.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure. And these are COs from the men's prison who probably think they're really being generous, because it's just tougher over there.
In a way, the women's camp is like a feeder to the main men's FCI. So if they were in lockdown, did you kind of feel like it was a bit of a slave labor camp? I don't know how else to describe it, because you're not being, or were you being paid to prepare their lunches while they're in lockdown?
The camp is slave labor. There is a camp with every prison deliberately set up so that services are provided for the prison. It makes sense when you get there and you understand it, because the higher level prison, you're going to walk around with shackles on, do 10-minute walks, come out with 2 guards. They can't. So you've got to have a camp by you, or a less penitentiary, lower level, so that they can mow your grass, do some of your laundry, make your sandwiches, do all the all the warehousing with the food gets done by the women's on that side and send to the men's, and then the men can cook. But if they get in lockdown and stuff, then it all freezes up. The camp is driven financially probably by the budget of the men's prison, but the women's prison or a camp, men or women, is definitely support staff for them.
So that's the way it's kind of structured. Do you think that's part of the reason why women aren't allocated female size clothes? Everything is male orientated as such. Because I'm thinking that if the women's side, the camp's locked down, what happens with you guys? Are the men's coming out? Are the men's cafeteria preparing your sack lunches, or what happens then? Is it the reverse?
We usually don't get locked down unless they're locked down. I can't think of ever. We didn't always get locked down when they got locked down, but we would get locked down because they were locked down sometimes. And because enough of them were having problems from ODing on a drug or being disruptive or whatever, that our guards would have to go over and work with their guards to get things taken care of. And so we'd have to go into lockdown because we didn't have enough guards on site for what we were supposed to have. So it wouldn't be uncommon for us to get locked down, but I don't think we ever got locked down where they didn't get locked down.
So a lockdown for an inmate, does that just basically mean that obviously you can't go outside, you can't congregate, you're not going to the cafeteria, so all your meals are now within your dorm or your room area?
When we were in lockdown, as I recall, we got to come out to the cafeteria and then go back. We did get to have our meals. The male prisoners, no, they got sack lunches. As a town driver taking a woman in to a regional hospital, let's say I come into a visiting room and I find the 2 guards with the man in shackles, I'm not allowed to go into that room. Even though he's in shackles and he's got 2 guards, I'm not allowed to enter that room until he goes in to see the doctor or leaves. If I'm in the room and they show up, I have to get up and leave. I'm not allowed to stay there, wait for the person who's there, or if the person's got an appointment, I have to take her with me. And we have to get out of there because they showed up. So Even like even for the movies, the male prisoners picked the movies that happened every Friday night, and we had no input on it. It was just whatever they wanted to see. That's what we saw on Friday nights. So I think that's why it's so important for me to just keep making the point that I don't think anybody's doing it to be mean. I think we're invisible. And for as large of the number as we're growing to be in prisons and camps, it's really time for people to recognize how many women are going behind bars or going into camps, and that there should be some adjustments made to accommodate that. And I'm not saying make it, fairyland and, a puff kind of situation. I'm just saying you could buy sweats and t-shirts and things that are actually women's clothing as opposed to buying men's clothing. And then maybe you have to alter them because they don't remotely fit, or the same for the tube socks, or so many other things that happen. We're just an afterthought. And it's surprising that you're such an afterthought when you're such a big piece of the support system.
Well, you're such a big resource for the labor. So
their labor, absolutely their labor. I mean, even the town drivers, when the COs from the big guard have to come over to the camp, or the warden or somebody, they don't want to drive back and forth, or they don't have a car, the town driver has to drive them back and forth so they don't have to walk in the rain. So we get to go in the rain to get to the car to get them so they don't have to walk in the rain.
Now, I do recall you telling a story, and I'm not sure we've discussed it on this podcast, but it's what led to the title of this particular episode. And that was that you happened to be in the cafeteria, so you must have volunteered to maybe do some of these sack lunches, and you saw a tin out the back. Now, what did that tin say?
It said, "Not for human consumption." So I'm really in the back. I mean, I'm going out the back door by where the warehouse is, the loading dock, all through this area, by the freezer, didn't go into the freezer, but there's canned goods all over there now. You can sort of see where their quantities of food are. And I and a couple other gals saw this can say "Not for human consumption." I'm like, what the hell are we being fed? I mean, I don't remember now what it was, but I just, it never made me feel good about eating there. I mean, I probably ate there less once I saw that.
Because you've mentioned before, though, too, that there's a lot of land around the camp, but you're not allowed to walk on the grass or anything like that. In your particular camp, did they not encourage maybe a vegetable garden? Or, I mean, admittedly, you'd need a reasonable size to be able to feed that many people, but did they encourage that sort of trying to generate your own produce to make things a little bit more nutritious, or herb gardens or anything like that?
Let me challenge you with, do you really need that big a garden space? In between the gym and where they hold church services and where those private offices are. And I had the girls take me around there behind once, which you're not supposed to go because they sneak there to smoke all the time. And I had the girls take me around there once to show me they'd had this garden. And so it wasn't a giant place, but I mean, my husband grows gardens, and you can grow a lot of tomatoes in a small space. You can grow cucumbers, peppers. There's a lot of things that you could grow. And I also think there'd be women who'd enjoy doing that. So I don't know why that wasn't on the horizon to do, but you weren't allowed to get on the grass. You weren't allowed to touch the grass. There's so many things about the camp that I don't understand how anybody who cared just a little bit more could improve the quality of life of the people who were there. Opening up the cafeteria so that you could go in the cafeteria and sit and play cards, or just visit and have somewhere else to sit besides on the limited benches that were available on the campus. To get out of the dorm where girls were freezing, or the only place you could go is sit on your bed, or be in the TV room, which is very limited, and people have reserved seats, so you can't get in the TV room. It was very hard. That's a reason a lot of girls went on Friday nights to the movie, because it's somewhere you could go and something to do. And they set up a whole bunch of chairs and stuff so that you could go over there and sit. And then you're watching literally a 48-inch screen TV hanging up on a gym wall with earbuds. That's your movie experience. It's not like you're getting a giant screen or anything. And it's not like there are three of them. In the movie, there's one. It's clear up. And so it's pretty far away. So you need to have some decent vision to see what's going on. And then you had to have earbuds to tune into the channel to hear it.
So tell me, with the cafeteria, was it only used during mealtime? So it wasn't available to inmates at any other time except for those?
Only used at mealtime, and that never made sense to me, because it's a centrally located building in between the gym, the administrative offices, the medical offices, and the dorms. So it's very centrally located, and it seemed like it would be a really good idea to have congregations and meetings there. You couldn't get 100% of the people in there, but you could get a whole dorm in there at a time.
And the entire time you were there, did you ever become sick from a meal that you ate in prison through the cafeteria or through the commissary?
I did not. Now, I know some girls got sick from eating in there, but I'm not going to say like there was a bad meal served and everybody got sick, because I didn't see that happen. When your dorm went in, the place didn't really fill up that much except for holiday meals, because they're all cooking back in the dorm, and you eat your meals and you go back and you smell all the food going off. And that's really where not necessarily healthier food, but fresher, better food was to be found back in the dorms and not in the cafeteria. And I think that speaks volumes about how bad. If you're a guard and people are getting fresh vegetables and stuff in the dorms, and you'd see you're not getting them in the cafeteria, I don't understand why something's not being done about that. Now, you're lucky if you've got the money and you make the contacts that you can get it done, but there are a lot of girls who can't do that.
So if you were to boil it all down, you got your source of food is either going to come from the cafeteria, it's either going to come from commissary, or if you're in the visiting rooms, you've got vending machines. I'm assuming the vending machines are actually only in the visiting area. They're not throughout the camp.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So what are the vending machine meals like? What are your options there? Are they nutritious?
No. Now, remember, with the vending machines, you have to buy a card. We don't have cash. So you have to have $5 to put on a card. You better not get caught with one of those cards. If somebody bought one and gave it to you, that will get you in a lot of trouble. But so you have to buy a card so you can use it on the vending machines to get food. But probably the two most popular things there was they had a cheeseburger or hamburger that was prepackaged and preserved. And they had chicken pot pies in a package. And those went fairly quickly. It is just it's just more junk food. It's more pop choices, more bags of chip, lots of candies, cheeseburgers, Fritos. It's not healthy food.
So the visitor as such is the one that can purchase that, not the inmate.
Oh, the inmate has no ability to purchase anything. No, because it takes that card to use a vending machine, and you better not be touching that card. You can't even get up and use it to buy. You have to have your guest buy it for you. We had 2 COs in the cafeteria, and one of the gal there, the rumor had it that whenever there was good food, she'd always take it out the back door and have dinner parties and stuff at her house, the really good stuff. Who knows if that's true or not? But I know that she would not let you bring meals in. Like if we had a holiday meal or something, she would not let you bring meals in to have with your spouse, where the male CO would make sure that he brought meals up so that you could partake with your meals and even bring one up for your spouse or your guest. Now, they're only going to bring a couple. So if you've got 5 people visiting you, you're not going to get 5 meals. But they would try to get a couple meals up to you so that you wouldn't just miss out on your meal.
Cheryl, when you're going through the process and you're lined up and you're waiting to go through the cafeteria, give me an example of what would be given to you on the tray. What would your selection be on any given day?
Well, you walk in and you pick up your tray. And then as you walk up to the glass things, you might have macaroni and cheese. They might have rice, a lot of rice. They might have a baked potato or a baked sweet potato. Those would be good when you got those. Then you would get maybe some corn or green beans almost always. And then you would get a piece of meat. And it could be whether it's fish sticks or a piece of fish or whether it was a chicken. They might have mashed potatoes sometimes, but they were packaged. They're pre-made. They're not real mashed potatoes. And so they didn't taste so good. So they'd pop that down. They pop your chicken down. When you get the end, they almost always had, for lunch at least, a little dessert. So they might have, little cobbler cakes or a little, not necessarily a brownie, or cookies. They might have cookies or something like that. So you could get those. And then you swing around and there's where you get your silverware, coffee or water, and the salad bar so that you could get lettuce, cottage cheese, and dressing.
Were you offered any desserts for dinner, or was that standard? Did the meal come with some type of dessert, or was that just a special occasion?
I think desserts came often. It may be just a cookie, but usually for lunch, there was a dessert. I don't think there was always a dessert for dinner, but there were desserts often. And again, some people would come in just to get the dessert and sit down and, bring your coffee that you brought because you're not drinking their coffee, and sit down and talk to everybody and have dessert.
So the biggest issue is probably not that, that you're being presented with a relatively balanced meal between your carb, your protein, and you've got some salad on there as well. But the problem was that it was also pre-packaged. I'm assuming like your corn and your beans, nothing was fresh. And so that was the biggest issue.
Right. All was preserved. I mean, none of it was even frozen. It was canned. So, I mean, frozen's the next best you can get if you can't get fresh, but none of it was ever frozen. It was always out of a can. So it's been preserved, and it just, your food's been preserved. And the longer you're in there, the more you better think about other things you're doing to help with your health.
Would you say that the side hustles and meal production are probably the better way to go if you can afford it rather than over the cafeteria?
I think partly one reason for the side hustles, and so many side hustles, are to be able to afford to get those kinds of things. Remember, the side hustle is just getting you money through commissary. So when you do a side hustle, you're earning through commissary. So you're going to get junk food, you're going to get tennis shoes, you're going to get, cards, stamps. You're not going to get money or something that is fungible somewhere else. So a lot of times the side hustle is done so that you can participate and do the other things.
If given the chance, what would you change about the food system in prison to make it healthier and more humane?
I don't think it'd be that hard to have fresh veg. I wouldn't let them take the good food out the back door. I mean, I just think I would try to make sure that there were healthy options. I mean, put a tomato on the lettuce instead of just a bowl of lettuce. It was good when you had cottage cheese, and they did have cottage cheese sometimes because there's some protein. I understood that you have just set meals like you would in school, that you're going to have those kinds of set meals. Because nothing's fried, everything's baked, and everything's prepackaged, I just think every now and then you could let them make something from scratch. They could make a dessert from scratch. They could make more soups from scratch. They could make a stew. I mean, I just don't think those options were presented in our camp. And I know that the ingredients were there for them to be able to do it. It just didn't happen.
Thank you for listening to How to Go to Camp with Katrina McLaren and Cheryl Womack. For more support, check out the Women of Worth website, www.womenofworthwow.org, where you'll find helpful resources, including Cheryl's books, Mummy Loves You Everywhere and How to Go to Camp, Surviving in a Women's Federal Prison. Whether you're preparing for the journey or supporting someone through it, remember, there's guidance, hope, and a community ready to help you navigate this path.